I am blown away. And I don't know if it's because we live in a bubble or something. I don't know. But I am blown away by the amount of people who do not have situational awareness or social awareness, like, that I meet on the road. And I'm just like, this is so weird.
What's up? Welcome back to the Freedom and Scrubs podcast.
Welcome. We are your hosts, Kim and Aaron G. I am practicing speaking louder because somebody says I speak too low.
Do?
We've been checking the mic for the last 20 minutes.
Okay. The last couple podcasts, I noticed, since we're in our new studio and we're not sitting exactly across from each other, that Kim sounds like she's like 800 yards away.
I'm speaking as loud as I can. And There's a pug in the room. We let her in. We're going to give it a whirl.
We are.
We are your hosts, Kim and Aaron G. We are the creators of the online course for healthcare travelers, Traveler School, the Facebook group, also for healthcare travelers, Travel Life, Freedom and Scrubs. And the creators of Freedom and Scrubs Adventure Trips.
Nice.
Woo!
Nice.
All right. So this episode is going to be super fun.
Yeah. It's something we talked about at TravCon.
Yeah, it's a topic that I think doesn't get as much. It's not talked about as enough in our industry, and it's about being the new kid and showing up every couple of months and being brand new to an environment and having to learn the people, learn the protocols, learn the doctors. Like, everything you do is basically starting from scratch every couple of months. And so we kind of want to dig into that a little bit and give some tips and tricks and our rituals and things that we do to help kind of calm the first day jitters and start your contract off on the right foot every single time.
Yeah, and again, anybody can travel, but it all comes down to, do you want to be a good traveler? Do you want to leave an impression? Do you want to continue traveling and have a good experience? Because anybody can go in there and just be the new kid and just be like, screw everybody. But we want to give you tips that's going to help you stand out.
Yeah, you don't want to be that person.
Right.
And we're going to talk about what that person looks like.
Yeah.
So let's get into the episode.
Let's do it.
P.S. Before we dive into the episode, if you are enjoying this episode and you think it can add value to someone else, please share this with your friend, all of your friends, your family, your grandma. Get it out there.
Everybody in this bitch.
Share it with everybody, okay? And leave us a review.
Yeah.
We appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
It means the world.
It does.
Okay.
So what's funny about this is we have been batching podcasts because we're leaving. Mm-hmm. And so we usually like to start with like what we're up to, what's going on, what's real, but we've done that in the past, like,
shit.
Right. So therefore this one, we're just jumping right in.
We're just sitting on the bed getting ready to head to Sacramento. Yeah. Tomorrow is our official 9-year wedding anniversary, mm-hmm. which is really cool because I was actually thinking, just, sitting contemplating on the couch, eating Quest bar, or not a Quest bar, a Tonut bar.
Okay.
And
I was about to say, you ate my Quest bar?
But it was a cake batter. It was actually pretty good. And I was thinking, like, wow, this time 9 years ago was the night, the rehearsal dinner, and we were at my sister's house, and we had baked stuffed clams, which for anybody who knows me knows, like, that is my favorite thing in the world.
They even brought the quahog shells down from Rhode Island.
Yeah. So a little backstory. My family has a beach cottage in Rhode Island, and it's one of my favorite places in the world. And right off of the property, you go into the water, and it's like a family thing. We all do it except me. I don't do it. All the boys do it. They go in and they get clams, or we call them quahogs there, and they're huge. And then you bring them up and you cook them, and then you mix them up with butter and garlic and cheese and breadcrumbs, and you bake them and you drizzle butter on top. Like, it's a whole experience. And then you put them back in the clamshell, and then you basically get them out, and we gobble them up like 20 at a time, and they're the best things in the world. My mouth is watering. I wallowed right now.
But we also had...
So my aunt brought these clamshells down. And so we had canned clams, because obviously we didn't have the fresh quahogs from the water in Rhode Island. But it was such a nice treat. It was such a moment. And then we had pizza pie.
Tommy's Pizza.
Obviously. And everybody was at my sister's house.
Yeah, and they
the whole
hosted
crew.
and did a really good job.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was so, like, it's so crazy to think that was 9 years ago. And then tomorrow we were, like, getting married. That's so weird. Like, we were such children. And I had, like, a killer tan / Oompa
Loompa.
Don't ever, like, pro tip for anybody who's going to be getting married or just doing any, like, leaving your house or going in public. Don't do a spray tan, like, without doing a trial run to see how it's going to look if you're doing it for something specific. Because my sister and I just, like, jumped in, and I basically turned orange like an Oompa Loompa. And I was orange for my wedding.
No, you weren't.
Legit.
No, you weren't.
You know I was.
No, you weren't. You were really... The rehearsal dinner,
it
was insane how dark you were.
I looked like a pumpkin with white eyes.
The wedding, you did not.
It, like, cleared up
It
overnight.
did.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
I was a unique color on our wedding day. Mm-hmm. Little unique, little bronze.
Both you and your sister's tans came down.
Yeah.
Thank God, because that rehearsal dinner, those pictures...
Oh my gosh. I wish you could show a picture, because it's classic. And I just have this big bow in my hair and just, like, an orange face.
We should put one up on freedomandscrubs.com.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Okay, go to freedomandscrubs.com and you can see the picture. Maybe. We'll see if we get there. Okay.
That's big stuff.
Oh, was that the best day of your entire existence?
It was. It was amazing. I was actually talking about it.
You said that with enthusiasm.
No, I was actually talking about it today about people that go into, like, major debt for weddings and just how special our day was.
Yeah.
And, like, it was awesome.
We had a 40-person wedding, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, like, our close friends and family. We got married on the beach.
We basically cut it off that if we hadn't talked to you in a month, you weren't coming.
Yeah. Like, we only wanted the people that we cared about.
Well, we cared about a lot more people, but...
I shouldn't say that.
The problem is it's like, okay, well, I'm going to invite my best friend's mom, and then Kim was like, well, then I got to invite my best friend's mom, and then it just kept going and going and going, so we were just like, we just got to cut it off. Like,
well, no, and I think, like, we were super clear on the fact that we were paying for it ourselves. My dad did help with the dinner, and he helped with some other things, which is amazing. But we basically were doing this on our own, and we knew we didn't want to go into debt. And more than that, like, I didn't want to be stressed. I've never been one of those girls who dreams about my wedding and plans my wedding and has a box of all the things. Like, I honestly didn't really care. I was excited to get married to Aaron. I was excited to start a life, but I wasn't, like, obsessed with a wedding. And so we knew we wanted it to be easy and simple, and I didn't want to be stressed out about every little detail. Like, that does not sound fun to me. Even if we had hundreds of thousands of dollars to blow, we didn't want a badass that trip. Wasn't important. Yeah. And so we just wanted to have a simple thing on the beach with our family. My mom married us and did the most beautiful ceremony
that nobody could hear.
I still have no clue what she said. No, that's not true. She actually, we had the cards. Remember we read them a couple years ago, and then we wrote our own vows. No, nobody could hear the violinist.
Yeah, she wasn't even there.
We hired a violinist, if that's what it's called, to play what is the song? The
Canon in D major.
Yeah, the wedding song. And, like, nobody saw her or heard her the whole time, and she, like, blew away into the dunes.
Yeah. No, it was good. It was awesome because, I mean, your sister helped out and she bought your dress.
Yep.
And then they took care of the rehearsal dinner, and then my dad bought the pizza for the rehearsal dinner.
No, it was great. It was a team effort. And I just loved the ease of it. That's the advice I always give people that are going to be getting married is, like, just have this be fun and have it be easy and simple and, like, take in the day, because who wants to be stressed for a whole year? Like, who cares?
Right.
Okay. Anyway, that turned into a wedding episode.
It really did.
But it's relevant because tomorrow's our anniversary. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into that. Let's, like, dive in to always being the new kid, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
Always being the new kid is so crazy because, again, in the travel world and all of the Facebook groups and all the talks, it's really not talked about a lot. And I think it's one of the most difficult things personally and mentally that we deal with as travelers.
Well, just to put it in perspective, as a traveler, you are moving around essentially every 3 months, right? So unless you extend, typically a contract is 3 months. So every 3 months, you are gearing up to walk into a brand new environment where you know nobody, right? Most of the time, you don't know anybody. You have no idea what you're walking into, who you're walking into, and you're gearing up to learn an entire new system, a new way of doing things from scratch every single time. And we've been doing this now for over 7 years. I've had tons of first days, and it hasn't gotten any easier as far as I still get nervous every single time and basically like poop my pants every single morning. I'm definitely more confident now. Mm-hmm. I feel more comfortable in my own skin that I can really walk into anything and handle it, because we walk into all different kinds of situations and we have to figure out how to handle it. But those nerves have never really gone away. No. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's a very unique thing, because not that many people have that many first days in their life, right? You know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting dynamic that we do as travelers.
No, absolutely. And then especially if you're in radiology, I mean, I guess anywhere, you know, nursing, you're dealing with the physicians and learning how they do things. And, you know, in IR, they're very particular about how they do things. And it's really bizarre because, you know, I had this conversation today with one of our travelers. She messaged me and she said, how do you deal with, when you know something is correct and you know it's the right way to do something, mm-hmm. but a place doesn't do it and they skip corners or they do different things and you feel like you want to like exert yourself and say like, we should do it this way because of this. Like, how do you deal with that? Because it can be tough. And I told her, you know, it's one of the toughest things we do. And, you know, I'm at a facility now that, you know, it's not like a advanced facility, and we do a lot of basic cases, and when we do get big cases, there's a lot of times that, you know, it's just things are done completely different than I'm used to.
Yeah.
And it's not right or wrong. And I think that's the biggest thing is I tried to tell her, and learning that rope is a very tough line. It's not something that you can just give a straight up answer to, because you have to feel it out and feel what's best for,
I think that, again, you're not there to be a consultant. You're there, I don't care how long, like I've been a stenographer for 12 years. I know how to do most things, but I'm not there. I'm there to learn how they do it. You are there to help them fill a void in their department. And so you are there to learn the way they do things, their protocols, the way their doctors like to do it, the way their techs like to do it. Like, you're there just to mold and bend and be flexible and be like, I'm here to help. Where do you need me? What do you need from me? That's how, like, you're not there to consult a department.
You're not there to consult, but you still can't lose yourself either in your skills. You can't downplay your skills.
Well, no, and it's like I teach people stuff all the time where I am. So, yeah, there's a difference between teaching people things when there's a willingness and openness, and then trying to say, well, there's nothing worse than when a traveler says, well, at the other facility I was at.
Those words are awful.
Don't be that person. Right. Because it's annoying, and nobody wants to hear that. Like, you're there to help them and their department, and that's what you're there to do.
Unless you're specifically asked, how is this done at other facilities?
Right. Okay, so again, putting this into context. First day, you walk in, no idea what to experience, okay, or what you're going to experience. And so you're going to be learning new protocols, new doctors, new personalities, which again, that's a huge thing all on its own, of being social, of like putting yourself out there socially and getting to know the people you're working with. And as we know, we work with a lot of different personalities. And so trying to find your way through that, like that's its own thing. New machines, new workflows, like how they go through the schedule, new exams, like everything is brand new. And you go in and you feel like you're going 100 miles an hour. Like I know when I come home on my first day.
Oh, I'm wrecked.
Like, you literally feel like your head is just spinning because you're taking in so much information. I think the other unique thing about traveling is that as a full-time employee, a lot of time there's this period of time, a couple of weeks, where you're training and you're just kind of finding your groove, and there's somebody there teaching you the ropes. As a traveler, you're expected to pick things up very quickly and to jump in and kind of just hit the ground running, because you're there for a reason. They need you to start working. And so the amount of time you have to quote unquote train is little to none.
Yeah.
I've been trained for like an hour and then I was off on my own. So you're just taking in so much information as quickly as possible. And that can be a lot.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's where you have to hold to your standards as well. And I think being upfront and honest is the best policy, and just saying like, hey, I need a little bit more time with this or that, but I can jump in and knock this out, or whatever you feel comfortable with. Stay in contact with your lead or whoever you report to, and kind of check in on your own. Say, hey, how do you feel like I'm doing? I feel like I need a little bit more work in this to kind of get used to this. Yeah, I firmly understand, like, for instance, like how to do the case, but you guys do it a little differently, so I kind of need to understand that. One thing that I always use in IR is I always say, like, I've done 200 port insertions, but this is my first one with you.
Right.
So I need to learn you, so let me get used to it.
Yeah. I always say, here's a pro tip. We bring in a notebook, small notebook that you can put in your pocket. And I use those first couple of days to ask as many questions as I possibly can. To not only ask questions, but to write down the answers so that you can ask a question once and have your answer written down. I still carry my notebook. I'm still referencing it. I'm still looking back at passwords and all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to keep asking the same questions over and over again. But I use that time to really pick their brain, and I make a joke out of it, almost like, listen, I'm going to be that girl that is going to ask a million questions, that's going to wear you out and break you down and just pick your brain as much as possible, because I'm somebody who likes to be very clear. I feel the most confident when I have a clear direction and understanding of what my focus is and how things are going to go. And so I'm going to wear you out for like the first day or two, but then I'm like good. I can refer back to my book, and I feel like I have everything I need. So that's a huge pro tip, right? Ask a shit ton of questions. Like, this is your time to ask questions and learn. Like Erin said, like, I've done 1 million ports. How do you do it? I do the same thing with ultrasound. Like, I've done 1 million pelvics. Do your rads like things done a specific way? Do they want us to add in this? Do they not care about this? Like, just get super clear on how they roll, what they need, and then you can kind of find your way through that.
Absolutely. You still have your methods of the way that you go about it, but the only thing that changes is the end result.
100%. Do you want to talk about, like, kind of our ritual for how we start our first day?
So one thing for me is I like to eliminate all possibilities of nerves as much as I can, and the way that I feel like I do that is knowing and learning as much as I can before I go in on the first day. So number one, it all traces back to your interview. How well do you interview? That's one thing that we really didn't talk about very much, but I try to understand as much as I can about the department and get the most clear picture I can during the interview. Again, travelers, this is not the same as taking a full-time interview. You are interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. So in traveler school, we break down all the stuff for people to be able to interview properly, because that is what saves you in most of your contracts, if not all of them. The one contract that was kind of dicey was because I didn't ask the right questions during the interview. And after that, I said, things are going to change from here on out. So very clear. You state everything in that interview. You ask them if they understand that and if they're okay with that. And then you go from there. So
can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid to be that person that asks questions. Because I think sometimes people get nervous because they don't want to bother people, or
they don't want to seem needy.
Yeah. And it's like, don't be afraid to be that person, ask questions, because if you don't ask the questions, you're going to get off the phone, or you're going to be in the department on your first day or whatever, and you're going to feel uncertain and unclear. And when you feel uncertain and unclear, you're not going to be performing at your best, right? You're not going to feel your most confident, right? Confidence comes from being clear and understanding what you're doing. So on an interview, don't hold back. Ask questions, because you want to hang up and know that this is a right fit for you, or it's not. But that only comes from the questions you're asking.
Right.
And the other thing I wanted to say is, asking questions on an interview and really getting an idea of what you're walking into is so important. That being said, there can be times, even when you ask the best questions and you have a kick-ass interview, you can walk into something very different, and they painted a different picture on the interview. And so just know that kind of stuff does happen sometimes.
Yeah,
even when you are a good interviewer.
But the thing is you still have that interview, because I've actually had that happen to where I walked into the director and the manager and said, on my interview, we stated this. Am I off base? Did I miss something? And they were like, no. And I said, this would have been a deal breaker if we would have talked about this on the interview. And they said, oh, we didn't know it was a deal breaker. I'm sorry. Like, we'll definitely, honor what we said in the interview, because I had the interview. I asked the questions. And I think the biggest thing is, Kim is a big question asker and I wasn't. And I would get off the phone with my first couple interviews and she was like, so what's your shift going to be? And I was like, well, the thing said it was 8 to 4:30. And she was like, what did they tell you it was? And I was like, I don't know. How much call are you going to take? I was like, I don't know. There's call involved, but I don't know what it actually is. And that feeling brought up anxiety, because then it's like, I'm already thinking about this going into the facility. What's this going to be? So I'm on edge. So the minute they tell me what it is, if it's something I don't like, that's my fault that I didn't ask the questions, because we could have sorted that out before I even signed the contract. And that's the thing, is a lot of facilities have said, ever since I started asking all these questions, they've actually said, man, how long have you been traveling? Like, I've never heard a traveler ask these questions, and I love it, because it shows that you're prepared and that you're going to be a good fit for this place. And that is 99.9% of the interviews I've done have been like, wow, thank you for asking all these questions. It's refreshing to know that a traveler cares enough to ask these questions.
Yeah. 100%. And I think we'll do another, like, a quick tip about interviews specifically.
Yeah.
But, just when you're thinking about the type of questions you want to ask, just think about, what do you want to know? What's important to you? Like, what is your shift? Are you going to have a varied shift?
Could it change?
Are you going to have to take call? Can it change? That's a huge one. Are you going to work holidays? Can you get this time off? Whatever it is that you feel like you need to know, write it down and make sure you ask it.
Yeah.
Okay, we're digressing. Let's get back to our rituals.
So basically, once you understand all of that, now you arrive at your new place. One of the first things Kim and I do, besides like going to the gym and our store and all that kind of stuff, because we get settled into a routine, is we drive by the hospital. And I usually like to go during the time that I'm going to start my shifts. So that way I know what the traffic is like. And then I actually park in a parking spot. And I do this, and Kim doesn't. It's kind of funny. I actually go in the department.
I know about that.
And I set up a time, and I talk to him on the interview. I'm like, hey, if I get to town early, is it cool if I come up to the hospital and just kind of like see where I need to go and kind of introduce myself? Because that takes the nerves off. Because you got to think, first day you're nervous of who you're walking in with. Where's the department? What if I get lost? What if I can't find a parking spot? What's the traffic going to be like? And those added things in your brain take you away from being able to focus and be clear and show up as a badass on your first day.
100%. The more you can do to feel relaxed, because again, anytime you walk into something new, most people, there's nerves, right? You're out of your comfort zone. You don't know what to expect. You're nervous. So the more things that you can do to help yourself feel the most relaxed, it's going to support you. It's going to help you feel better. So knowing where you're going, where you're going to park, what traffic is going to be like, that helps me be like, okay, cool. Like, because I get super anxious if I'm driving anywhere for the first time and I have to like follow the Google map, and it's like, so knowing where I'm going is huge. And leading up to that first day, like the night before and even the morning of, I like to do the things that help me feel my best, right? Because the better you feel, the more confident you're going to feel, period. You're going to show up as your best self when you feel your best. So for me, that looks like having a workout and a healthy dinner the night before, being able to pack a healthy lunch the next day. I do, when I can, like to work out first thing in the morning, because think about that energy you're going to get, and you're going to just like feel good. And it's like such a great way to start the day. And then having, a healthy breakfast. For me, I take some time to, have a prayer, meditate, be quiet, just set an intention of like tuning in with myself, connecting with myself, and being like almost giving myself like a pep talk. Like, you got this, and just like helping myself get in a really high vibe state. And then it's go time. Yeah. And I usually poop my pants like 5 times. Like, I literally walk into the hospital. I do this almost every time because I go, you go through the front. You don't really know which way to go in yet. So typically we'll go through the front, and I always find a bathroom in the lobby. I go in there and rip ass for like 5 minutes. I give myself plenty of time, and I'm just farting and I'm pooping.
Okay.
Because you get a bellyache. I get the bubble guts.
That never happens with me.
You don't get the BGs?
Never.
Yes, you do.
Never.
Okay, well, I get the BGs. My tummy gets sensitive.
Okay.
So, and then I just kind of, like, after I release, then I just, like, look in the mirror and I, like, say affirmations and, like, just pump myself up and just kind of, like, let's go. Like, let's do this. And then I just go. Like, I just, like, beeline it and just, like, fuck it. Let's do it.
Yeah. No,
You know what I'm saying?
I can't really top that. I mean, it's pretty...
Whatever. You always fart in the car. On the way.
Okay.
It's just like a cloud of smoke when you pull up.
Wow. I'm glad you know this.
You gotta release.
But yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I said, walking into the department, like Kim said, she doesn't really do that. But I actually introduce myself to people. I that way, that whole meeting is done and over with. I can kind of like... They can see me and my personality, and I feel like it just takes the edge off.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I do that whenever I can. Obviously, it's not every time.
Yeah, you've done it a couple.
But I've done it enough to where it makes me feel a lot better showing up on my first day. Because I'm more nervous about that, about who I'm working with, than where to go and stuff like that.
Okay, let's talk about some of the pros.
Okay.
About it. Because... You know, again, this is just part of the gig. Like, there's no way to get around it. It's just, you're going to have tons of first days depending on how long you're traveling for. And yes, it can feel like a lot. And yes, it can feel overwhelming sometimes because you feel like you're constantly starting over. And, you know, you get in there and you have a couple of days where you feel all over the place. It's like information overload. You're like trying to find your groove and like find your flow. And then... within a couple of weeks, you're like in it, part of the team, ready to roll, and it
like
goes...
you had been there for 15 years.
Like the people I work with now, they feel like family. Like I love them. You know, I feel like I've been at this department for years, and it's like before you know it, it's gone, it's over, and you're like moving on to the next one.
We're going on our third extension right now,
this is the
and
longest.
I feel like I've been there 10 years.
100%. 100%.
It's insane. But there was a time where this is the easiest contract I've ever had.
Well, you literally sit in the kitchen or in the cafeteria with a computer and drink Mountain Dews all day. So, yeah.
But anyway.
While I'm busting my ass.
But there was a time when I first got there that for the first 2 weeks, and I've been doing IR for 13 years in some of the biggest monsters around this United States, right? Big facilities. And I walked into this little tiny, community hospital. And there was a time for 2 weeks that I actually said to myself, I'm never going to get this. Like, just the way they do the computer system and the PAC system and the scanning and the physicians and the charting I was like, I'm never going to get this. And it's funny, like, you always have that. And then I look back on it and I'm like, what was I even nervous about?
Why were you tripping?
This was so easy.
Yeah.
But it's funny, you feel like that because it's so new.
It's a lot. And you're learning a lot of different new things all at one time. Pro tip, because I think most people stress about the computer systems because most places have different systems or they have different versions of systems you're kind of familiar with. For us, we use different machines. And so a lot of people stress about that. So all I can say for that and what has helped me so much, and I catch on really quickly, is write it down. Like I'm so annoying. It hurts. But I make them, whoever's training me, write down step by step. And I'm so specific and I'm so detailed. And I have them get down to like the micro because I want that step by step so that when I go off on my own, if I'm like, oh fuck, what do I do again? I just go back and I have it all step by step, and so I don't have to keep bugging. Don't be that traveler that doesn't write things down and just keeps bugging and asking the same questions all the time, because there's nothing more annoying than that. Right.
No, and I still have my notebook. I referred to it yesterday, and I've been there 6 months.
Yeah.
But it is seriously step by step by step by step, all the way to the end of how to exit. Even though I know how to exit, I need to know that that's the step that I do next.
100%.
And so, and once I wrote that down in my first week, I've never had to ask a question on how to do it unless it's like a crazy nuance that like never happens.
Exactly. So write shit down, people, if you take anything from this episode.
And it's cool because then you have little notebooks from all the different facilities.
I know,
we always get a new notebook and new pens.
But we just did an episode about downsizing and living simply, and so we probably shouldn't be lugging those little
I throw
notebooks.
them away.
I do too.
Or I hand them to somebody and I'm like, here,
the
give this to the new traveler.
Like, pay it forward.
Yeah.
That's a good thought. Okay. So the pros are, even though it's a lot, you get to learn so many different ways of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And this has honestly been my favorite part because I thought I was like this badass stenographer when I worked at Baptist Beaches. Shout out. Whoop.
What?
I love the beach.
Mm-hmm.
But since I've been traveling, I've become a far better stenographer. And that's because I've worked in so many different places with different doctors, like amazing rads, like amazing hands-on rads that I have learned so much from, and amazing techs and just different ways of doing things. And that is something that when you work at the same place for however many years, like if I would have never left the beach, then you don't have any other way of learning anything new.
You would have been Baptist Beaches good.
Exactly.
And like that's the thing is you're capped, right? Yeah. You only do the procedures that facility does. There's certain specialties that they don't do. Yeah. Like Baptist Beaches didn't really do transplants.
100%.
Right? So that went downtown. So you would have never got exposed to that, or high risk OB or things like that. Right. And so it's the same with me is, you know, when I left Baptist Beaches, I was really good at my basics, but one of the radiologists turned to me, the IR doc, and she said, you're going to actually learn what a real IR tech is. And I was like, what does that mean? She was like, you are not an IR tech. And I couldn't believe she said that.
What a biatch.
Well, it was actually really true because I realized that, man, we only did a small spectrum of what we actually do. And the skill level of scrubbing and knowing these cases and being, you know, being there for the physician, you know, I really didn't know hardly any of that. So I was exposed to so much as a traveler, and it's just blown through the roof.
100%.
So, yeah.
So, but mindset is everything.
100%.
And so having the mindset of opening yourself up to wanting to learn, wanting to ask questions, wanting to pick people's brains that you can learn from. Like, there's so many amazing people out there that we're going to come in contact with at these different hospitals that we work at, and really using that to our advantage to gain as much knowledge and wisdom and skills as we possibly can.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is such a cool thing that we get to do.
Well, and it's kind of how I opened up at the beginning, where you're going to learn so many ways. What do they say? There's so many ways to skin a cat, or whatever.
Skin a cat?
That's like the saying.
You're a savage.
That's the saying.
Who skins cats? That's disgusting. I don't think it's that.
100%, babe.
Skin a cat?
There's a whole bunch of ways to skin a cat.
Like shear a sheep?
Sure. But anyway, it's you can say what you want, like whatever makes you feel better. But
I don't want to skin a kitty.
I don't either. But
he wants like a bald kitty.
The thing is you have to realize, you know, there's again, like I ran across it today, where I actually pulled one of the radiologists, the IR doc was outside, and I was like, hey, so you know, after this case, we always did things this way. Like, do you feel like that has any sort of pro or con to, you know, to helping the patient at all? Because we don't do that here. And I was just wondering, like, what are your thoughts on that? Because it is hard to be like, I feel like, you know, some places are really strict and, you know, you're learning things. You're like, oh my God, that makes sense. But then there's so many ways to do it that you get the same result. As long as it's not putting a patient at risk, I feel like be open to learn new ways to do things. And if you don't like it, then use your way, as long as you're not doing anything wrong.
100%. And then I think another big pro is the confidence that you gain.
Oh, yeah.
This is huge because, you know, I'm way, way, way more confident in so many different ways from traveling. And it's because traveling forces you, whether you want to or not. If you are signing up for the travel life, you are going to be living outside of your comfort zone in all areas of your life. And by doing that, you are forced to show up, you are forced to get uncomfortable, you are forced to get out of your normal zone. And that builds confidence, that builds character, that allows you to get more comfortable in your own skin and to show up in all these different places with different people, and to be able to be yourself and to feel good in your own skin.
Right. And I mean, again, like we'll talk about, like smiling goes a long way.
Well, that's a whole nother segment.
Oh, I didn't know we had segments.
Well, so the pros, and then we'll kind of get into like some tips for helping to show up.
Okay.
Like,
do you have
on
any
your
more
first
pros?
day.
I feel like I'm
That's
out.
what I was kind of, I think the last one was just kind of the confidence. I think that's
Yeah.
such a huge pro.
But again, I mean, we can't stress it enough. You have to be open to learn. Like, if you just revert back to, like, how you were trained at, like, the first facility you were ever trained, and you're closed off to learning new ways to do the same thing that you feel like you already know, the words, I already know that, are the most, like, destructive words you can put into your brain.
Well, I think just having, if you are a fixed-minded person, traveling is not for you. Get out now.
I agree.
Or you can totally travel, but you're probably not going to have the best experience. And there's tons of people that want to have different experiences, and that's cool. But if you want to open yourself up and really take advantage of this journey that we get to take and really up-level your life and elevate your experience in all ways, you have to have an open mind. And if you have a fixed mindset in any area, you are going to fucking struggle.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Period. Okay. So now we can move into the next section that I've prepared.
Oh, okay.
That's just like some tips for helping you show up as a boss, basically. On your first day, rock your first day. We did a whole talk about this at TravCon, about showing up on your first day and how to kill it and how to make a good first impression, because that's huge. It sets the tone of your entire contract, really.
Yeah, it does.
So let's share a couple tips.
Well, one...
Just the tip.
Smile, obviously. Be personable, be friendly, be open. I also, situational awareness is my biggest one. And then I'll let you just kind of roll, because I feel like we have the same one, so I don't want to like just bulldoze your ones. But situational awareness is huge for me, and I think it's a lost art. It's a lost skill. And what?
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I am blown away. And I don't know if it's because we live in a bubble or something. I don't know. But I am blown away by the amount of people who do not have situational awareness or social awareness, like, that I meet on the road. And I'm just like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
Like, you feel like most people are like you, and then you realize once you get out there and meet a lot of people that most people are not like you.
Yeah.
At all.
No, I know. And I think just situational awareness, especially if you work in a team environment, like really taking those first couple weeks to step back and observe. Don't just bombard your way in there and like kick down doors and be this like overpowering presence. Like, really take a step back and see how the team operates. See who gets up, who's the go-getter, who's the one that kind of sits in the back, who's the quiet one, who's the loud one, who's the jokester, who's the go-getter. Like, you figure out who these people are, and then you use your best assets as a team player to really fill that void that elevates the team, right? You're not just being like, oh, I'm just going to boss everybody around and tell them what to do because I know everything and I'm an exertive kind of person, but like really seeing how you fit into the team and how your role can be best, suited in that team. And then also not being over the top. Like, you can tell when people are, just wanting to be on their phone for a little bit and being quiet and not just always having to like chat up the team, or just really observe what goes on around you.
Yeah, I agree, man. People really need to work on their...
I agree.
Like, it's so funny, like you'll be in the middle of a conversation with somebody about, like, not even like important stuff, but just having a conversation, a normal conversation, and then someone comes over and like, look at the video of my cat. Ugh, like, watch my video, and you're like, we were just talking. Like, did you not? And it's just bizarre. It just blows my mind.
And then it never stops. It's not like, watch this video.
And then you're like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you guys were in the middle of something. It's just like, it's very odd to me. I think everybody needs to kind of have some self-reflective time and ask yourself, are you one of those people? Because honestly, there is nothing more fucking annoying than people that like don't get it and that they don't know how to be in social situations and like respect people's like conversations, or I don't know, just like the space.
And I just really thought that when you have headphones in, that's universal sign of don't bother me. Oh my
gosh. You think?
I thought so. Instead of tapping on people's shoulders and pulling the earphone out of their ear, yes, that happened. To me,
like
anyway.
you would literally sit there and be like, okay, I'm gonna go get some work done. I've got a lot to do, and then like put your earphones in and like basically like tape them to your head, and he would like come over and rip them out of your ears
to show me a tree
and watch a video. Gosh, bless his heart.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't be that person.
No.
And we've kind of touched on all of it, but I think something that's underrated and just something to kind of really think about and like really like bring in on your first date is just show up and be the friendliest version of yourself. Like be friendly, smile, like be personable, ask questions about people, ask people, people love to talk about their town. They love to talk about where they're from. Ask them like where to go, what to eat, like starting conversations with people. And by being friendly, it's just like being approachable, like when you are friendly, people are so much more apt to warm up to you faster or to be more patient with you or to give you leeway in some areas. Like by just being likable, like honestly, like don't come in and have a scowl and sit in the corner. And again, if that's your personality, I'm naturally like a bubbly person. People at work call me sunshine. Like I can't, it's like that's me naturally. So, but just be your most natural version of yourself that's friendly and open and letting people know like, hey, like I'm a nice person. I'm here to help and I'd like to get to know you guys.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, personality takes you farther than skill.
100%.
You could be the best, like, skilled person.
We should do a whole pod on that.
But if you're a miserable person to be around, nobody cares. Nobody wants to work with you.
No. Even if you could like rock the house and be, the best stenographer ever, if you're an asshole, like nobody's going to want to be around you.
Like there's literally been times that I've taken contracts that I was nowhere near the best one on the floor, but yet I was the one they asked to extend.
Because they liked you.
Because they liked me because I was just my personable self.
Yeah.
And like,
for sure.
It goes a lot farther.
The last thing is really taking initiative. Again, we said this before, but there's, not there usually, you got to hit the ground running. There's a limited amount of time you're going to be trained. So ask the questions that you need and jump in there. Don't be afraid to jump in there. Roll up your sleeves, take initiative. How can I help? Again, going back to situational awareness. Where are they stocking the linens? Where are they getting the gel? Whatever it is for your department, like go and start stocking the linens. Go and clean the machine. Like, hey, can I get this patient? Like just jump in there. And for me, I'm always a lot more nervous until I jump in and do my first patient. Mm-hmm. And once I scan my first patient, I go through the whole thing on my own, I start to be like, okay, like I can do this, and it breaks the ice and I start to feel the nerves settle. Mm-hmm. So jump in there as quickly as you can. Like don't be that person or that traveler who's lazy or who's just sitting around waiting for someone to tell them what to do. Because unfortunately there's travelers out there that give us a bad rap that are just like, I'm only here for a couple months. I don't really care. I'm just here to like, get by and whatever. It's like, don't have that kind of mentality. Like you're there to hustle. You're there to work. You're there to be helpful. And the traveling community is a really small community. And so word gets around. And so you want to do it for yourself, to have integrity and to do a good job. But also because, the hospitals give you reviews and, recruiters talk. So just do a good job.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Don't be the person
Don't be a lazy
Don't be the person that sits in the chair and looks at their phone until somebody tells you what to do.
Yeah.
Like,
granted, I will do that sometimes now.
Oh, yeah, I will too.
But that's only because I'm really close to the girls that I work with. And, we'll all fluff around and be like, I don't want to do it. Right? But we have a relationship now and we're
you're
friends.
Established.
Right. Don't do that on like your first couple of weeks.
No,
I busted my butt.
We actually said that. So like one of the techs that I work with, we were talking and we were like, he and I could just all of a sudden turn lazy and people would give us the benefit of the doubt because of the way we started. Because of like who we were and what we've established. They know to my core that I'm not a lazy person. So if I come in and I just sit on my phone one day, they know that I'm just freaking tired or I just feel like sitting on my phone today. Like, it's not a pattern. It's not who I really am. So really going out of your way at the beginning to just be a rock star. Like, have that in your mind. Like, create an alter ego. I actually said at TravCon, I like to consider myself the IR cowboy. Like, I go in with this alter ego of just like, it's still myself, it's my truest self, but I'm very conscious of how I'm showing up. I'm very conscious of the example I'm setting, and I try to be a go-getter. And then you kind of can start to settle in and feel the flow and see how things go.
100%. But when you start the tone of being like that badass rock star, go-getter, hard worker, when you do have an off day or you do feel lazy, they're just like, oh, Kim, like, she's, we love her. She's such a great worker. But, she's just tired today, right? Because I've already set the relationship and the tone for who I am and how I work.
Well, I think that jumps right into the next point that I kind of wanted to end on, was you have to understand the mentality that you're walking into that they have of you. You do not know what came before you. Mm-hmm. So their guard is up because you're just a random person. And unfortunately, like we said, travelers do get a bad rap of just like, they're only here for 3 months. They don't care. They don't want to learn. They just want to do the job and get out. And that's great for what it is, but why can't you be a rock star for those 3 months and then get out? Stay out of the drama, do a good job. Yeah. But the people that you're walking into, they are really on edge to see what you're like, how you work, what you're going to be teaching other staff. Like, if you're going to be in there just dissecting their department, if you're not good with the patients, if you're not good at your skill, like, they don't know. They don't know. They're taking a risk on you, bringing you into their world, which they're very protective over. Yeah. So really understanding that from a level and being sensitive to that. Yeah. And really catering. Like, you wouldn't just walk up and drop kick a kid in the head, right? What? I'm just saying.
Very savage.
In general. You wouldn't just like kick a kid, right? You would nurture, you'd be like sensitive to a child.
Who kicks a kid?
Exactly. So you wouldn't just walk in and what I'm saying is the leads and the people around you, that's their baby. Like, that's where they work. That's their place of work. They think highly of it, maybe. I don't know. But you just don't walk in and just be like, oh, screw this place.
Yeah. I think, a big takeaway is humbling yourself.
Yeah.
And going in and knowing there is a learning curve for everybody involved. So just like you're nervous to walk in and don't know what you're walking into, they don't know you either. And they have to learn you. And they have to figure you out and how you're going to work in the department and what you're bringing to the table or what you're not bringing to the table. And so really humbling yourself and not taking things personally. Right? There's lots of times, depending on where you go, but maybe they're hovering a little bit or trying to teach you things or show you things that you already know. So a good story, we'll end it with this. A really good story is, so where I am now, my first day, I was following around the lead, who's fantastic. And she's a great stenographer. Mm-hmm. I was following her around and she wouldn't let me scan or anything. I was basically like just watching her scan, which is so weird. But a lot of places are like, they're like, just watch this one. I'm like, okay, whatever. But you're learning the machine and that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I'm following her around and she's like, okay, teaching me how to scan through the liver. And she's like, they like it to be like a movie screen. So you start all the way, superior and go inferior, like all the way through, like sweeping through. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, I know I've been a stenographer for 12 years. I'm a damn good stenographer. I know what I'm doing. And then she's teaching me how to clean the probe and make sure I clean the wires and blah, blah, blah. And like all these things that you learn on the first day of school, right? And I'm like, this is insane. And so I was like, I'm not going to get it because I was kind of annoyed. I'm like, really? Come on. But I was like, I'm not going to take it personally because, again, she doesn't know anything about me. So she's talking to me like she doesn't know anything about me. She doesn't understand what I know or whatever. And so, anyways, come to find out, they had a traveler before me. And there was also somebody else that was there that they were basically was just a hot freaking mess. And they had to go back to the basics and really, really, really like be very careful with these people. And so they were worried that, they wanted to make sure that I wasn't that I knew what I was doing. And It had nothing to do with me. And so they wanted to check all of my scans. That's what it was. I was starting to get annoyed because the first two, so I didn't scan it all the first day, but then the second day and the third day I started scanning on my own. And every exam I did, they wanted to check it. And I was kind of like, okay. But then they checked my scans, and after, those 2 days, they're like, you're good. Like, we don't need to check you anymore. Like, you got this. And it was because they were just wanting to make sure I knew what I was doing, and that had nothing to do with me. And so just remember that whatever department you're walking in, if you experience anything like that where you feel like you want to be like, do you even know who I am? Or like, do you know how long I've been doing this? Like, don't talk to me like that. Like, resist the urge to be defensive, because we're all learning each other.
Yeah. And I like the feeling of like, if you're secure in your skills, them checking you is not a big deal.
Right.
Because you're secure in what you're doing. And if they have some feedback, fantastic. If they don't and they're saying something and you're knowledgeable enough, you could talk to them and say, well, this is why I understand this, and do you understand it differently? It's a conversation. They're not like, our ego gets in the way and we feel like we have to prove ourselves, which technically we do. Mm-hmm. And that can be tough. That's a tough thing to jump through, a hoop to jump through. But what I've noticed and what you've even said is just like, when you're confident in your own skills, they can check you all you want to. And you'd be like, yeah, like, right. Do you have any feedback? Because if not, maybe you'll learn something.
Exactly. Yeah. And so just kind of preparing yourself for that and knowing that it's just part of it. It's a part of being new. It's a part of walking into a department. It's not probably a popular thing to say, but it's the truth. There's a period of time that you have to prove yourself. Yep. You have to prove your skills, that you're a good worker, all of that, because they don't know you.
Yeah.
And they want to make sure you're a good fit, because if you're not, there's travelers that I've worked with that have been let go because they weren't able to do what they said that they could do. It's just part of it. And so anyways,
I worked with a doc last week that literally told me to go stand in the corner because I was doing a liver biopsy. And he was like, it's not that I don't trust you. I mean, I do. I just would rather work by myself. And it's just that type of, like, it's
that
easy.
That put you into a tizzy.
It did, because it was just like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah,
dude.
It's like, it's frustrating. You're like, really, dude? You don't even, like, you actually need my help, bro. Like, you don't even know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's frustrating. But it's like, again, we talked it out, but it's like, don't take it personally. Right. It has nothing to do with you. And it's not worth making a big stink over. Right. And that guy, that's just how he rolls.
What was funny was it was a traveling doctor. Mm-hmm. Which you would
he and I ended up becoming best friends.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny. I'm like, oh, you meet my wife and now you're my best friend?
Well,
like,
the only reason we became besties overnight is because he lived in Florida for a while, and so we were talking about St. Augustine. It bonded us, all the places that we've gone that we both knew and related to. And so we kind of hit it off.
Yeah, he asked me my name 16 times until he met Kim, and then all of a sudden he knows me.
He was like, I was like, you work with my husband. And he was like, who's that? And I was like, he's an IR. And he's like, what's his name? And I was like, Aaron. He's like, who's that?
Yeah, exactly. And I had done 4 cases with him.
But then he went back and he's like, hey, Aaron, what's up?
What's up, buddy? Yeah, you from Jax?
I'm a matchmaker. I bring people together.
Anyway.
It's my sparkling personality.
I'm running out of steam here.
Let's end it, man. That's it. That's a wrap. Hopefully you found this valuable in some way. Let us know in the feedback and what you took away, or if you have any questions, you can reach out on freedominscribes.com and contact us and let us know any questions you have. Leave us a review, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, too, if you guys are, if you've heard us talking about Traveler School and you're super interested in that, you can go to kimandaaron.g.com. It is in the details in the show notes, because I spell my name very funny, and so that way you can actually see it, and I wish you could see Kim's snorty face that she's making at me right now. So, anyway, everything's in the show notes, and we'll see you next week.
Until next time, stay legendary.
Did you just take Tom Billaloo?
I totally just ripped Tom Billaloo's impact theory off. I did that on purpose.
It says stay legendary, my friends.
Whatever. Stay legendary, brah.
Okay.
Dream, inspire, love.
Educate, inspire, adventure.
Live free to die.
Out. Deuces.